Evil does not sleep. It waits.
Who is that? Fake ass superhero, man!
Goofy ass nigga. What the fuck you think this is? Ready? Come on, hang on a second. Let me.
If I hurt your self-esteem and you get this too bad, why you gonna just be saying that you get too mad?
Stop what's the fat ass nut?
So this is a follow-up to my previous video about Amazon's Rings of Power show, which was recorded before the trailer at San Diego Comic-Con premiered. And so I want to make this video to talk about the trailer a little bit, and to clarify a few things from my previous video, as well as address a few comments I saw pop up. So let's go ahead and talk about the trailer first.
Stop what's the fat ass nut?
So it showed off a lot more in terms of the actual narrative. It's focused on the evil returning, in this case, Sauron. We'll talk about him more in a minute. And we have Tarmiriel showing Galadriel, I assume, the future and downfall of Numenor. These are things that the showrunner said would appear in the series, Sauron and the Forging of the Rings, as well as the downfall of Numenor. So that's one aspect of the show that we're finally getting to see a little bit of. But I'm still not sure what all these other characters are going to be doing. We get some of the same shots we've seen before. We also get some pretty decent CGI and landscape scenes, as well as a shot at the end with a Balrog, which was pretty cool. Yeah, so it finally gives us a better idea of the narrative, but also at the same time, this trailer doesn't change anything for me personally, and what I said in the previous video still stands. It actually reinforces what I said about how they're going to be changing around events and characters, like Tarmiriel meets Galadriel in what I assume is Numenor. There are a few issues here. These two characters never met, and Galadriel never visited Numenor. Also, it's going to be showing the rise of Sauron as Anatar, and also the fall of Numenor, which are events that happened 2,000 years apart from each other. So they're definitely going to be condensing events and the timeline for the show. Makes me wonder what's going to happen to the events that occur within that 2,000 year time frame. Are they going to skip over them, or just brush over them quickly, or just move them around and make it fit in their own story? Now, as for the look of Sauron as Anatar, I expected someone a little less obviously evil because he's described as being fair in appearance, which he kind of needed to be to win over the trust of others, so I didn't expect him to look so obviously evil. Other than that, it's whatever, I'm not too concerned about it. Although in the trailer they talk about Sauron as this great evil that's returning, when you figured it would be Morgoth that they would be more familiar with, since in the first age, Morgoth was the bigger evil that Sauron served. Although, I kind of get it, the show wants to build up an evil that people are already more familiar with, and that's Sauron. Also, I don't know what's going on with this Morgul blade. Looks kind of neat, but not sure what the relevance of it is. I imagine they're going to incorporate the ring race eventually, but it feels a little too soon, because the rings aren't even forged yet. Like I said, I'm not sure, I'm just speculating. Although for a show called Rings of Power, there is still no mention of the Rings of Power. Okay, that's mainly a joke, but I imagine they're going to get there in the later seasons. Yeah, so the trailer was alright, one of the better ones. Got some pretty good visuals, and some actual narrative stuff, but it still doesn't change my thoughts at all.
Stop what's the fat ass nut?
Now this section I'll be responding to various comments I got in my first video. Now some of these are pretty specific, and I really appreciate when people take the time to type out an essay in the comments. I'm not being sarcastic, I think it's flattering, so thank you for your time. Although there are some comments that are just very broad and really general, and not really a good criticism or response to what I said, and are more so just dismissive of things I brought up. I won't start with those first because I find them pretty funny, and honestly they're the ones I see pop up time and time again whenever I say something negative about an upcoming movie. Or in this case, a show. Just don't watch it. Very riveting, thank you for the insight. You say you're not excited, but you're taking the time to talk about it in a video. Yes, very observant. God forbid I take some time to talk about a project that is adapting something I really enjoy. You haven't seen it yet, so why are you judging it? This one is pretty ludicrous because the point of trailers and interviews and pre-release images are to get people engaged and interested in the project, and I'm allowed to judge the things I've seen that they released so far, and what people involved in the project have said. If we aren't allowed to share our opinions on any movie or show before it's actually released, then what's the point of trailers and pre-release press runs? They're meant to market the product and show viewers what to expect, and to give them an idea of what they're going for. So yes, we're all allowed to give our opinions and judge it based on what we know about it. Try judging it on its own merits. A few things there. One, I did towards the end of my previous video, and I said I don't think it's a very remarkable fantasy show, based on what I saw up until that point. And number two, I feel comments of this nature come from people who are not familiar with me or my other content, which is fine. We all don't have time to dig into every channel that we all comment on, but I talk a lot about comic book movies, and I usually just judge them how they are just as movies, and how the characters are when compared to their other appearances in a franchise. It's rare for me to really dislike a comic book movie because it strays far from the source material, because most comic book movies really change a lot, and like I explained in my previous video, most superhero comics are designed to be involved in never-ending storylines, so it's only natural they'll get passed down to new hands of writers and artists who continue their story, or reboot the character, or give their own interpretation. That's why I'm not surprised when a comic book character on screen is different from how they are in the comic book. So in short, I usually do end up judging things on their own merits. That doesn't negate the concerns I have for it as an adaptation. What do you mean it looks bad? What I mean is, parts of the trailer and footage look really good, while other parts look subpar, either with its VFX, CGI or costumes. It feels inconsistent when parts of the trailer looks pretty good, and other parts have scenes that obviously make it look like they're in front of green screens, or some of the costumes just look cheap. And with a show with a budget like this, nearly $500 million in the first season alone, also being funded by one of the biggest companies in the world, you figured it would look amazing, or at least consistent, especially since they have access to better technology than Peter Jackson did. Although in the latest trailer, they did polish it up, and there are parts that look really good. Like the dwarves look fine, although I still have issues with some of the outfits. So for as big and high profile as this show is, I expected a bit more consistency in these pre-release images and footage. Now it's time for some more specific criticisms that I got. This is nothing like Game of Thrones. There won't be any graphic sex or extreme violence. This must be in response to when I said that they are taking a Game of Thrones approach with its plot. I was talking exclusively about the plot and story, because, like Game of Thrones, it has a big cast of characters, 22 of them according to the showrunners, and they will be following multiple storylines with dwarves, men, Harfoots, elves, and of course, Sauron and the Forging of the Rings. Not to mention, they want to dive into the politics of the kingdoms of elves and men, similar to how Game of Thrones focuses heavily on the politics of its own world. That's why I say it's taking a Game of Thrones approach with its plot and multiple storylines. Never mentioned that it was going to have nudity or sex. Simon Tolkien is working with the showrunners, so it's okay. For those who don't know, Simon Tolkien is the grandson of J.R.R. Tolkien and son of the late Christopher Tolkien. And yes, indeed, he is working with the showrunners, and all I gotta say is,
Okay.
being related to the creator of something doesn't make you an expert, so I don't really see the point of mentioning it. Oh, well, since we're on the topic, someone found this clip of Simon Tolkien saying this back when the Hobbit films were coming out.
And my problem with the films was really that I think Jackson was kind of too faithful to the book. He kind of put too much into it, and so there was too much going on. I would have liked more character and perhaps following his own course. So I think with the Hobbit films, it's going to be quite interesting because it's the opposite problem, which is that there's a great deal less material for him to work with to put together a trilogy.
Over 3 films again,
Yeah,
isn't
it's another trilogy. So, you know, he can actually kind of make up his own script.
So that gives you a general idea of what he thinks and probably why the Amazon wanted him on the show. But again, being related to the guy who created these classic works doesn't automatically make you an expert.
Your word don't mean shit around here.
Warrior Galadriel is accurate. So in the show, Galadriel is the commander of the northern armies, and she was never a commander or leader of armies. This was clearly a change they wanted to make because most people seem to think that the only way to make a woman badass is to put a sword in her hand. I've been seeing people say that Galadriel being a sword-wielding warrior isn't too far from the lore because they point out these two things. In Unfinished Tales, it says that she fought Faramore. Here's a clip of somebody else reading the passage because I suck at words.
Though she fought fiercely against Fëanor in defense of her mother's kin, she did not turn back. Her pride was unwilling to return a defeated suppliant for pardon, but now she burned with a desire to follow Fëanor with her anger to whatever lands he might come and to thwart him in all ways that she could.
And in a letter, Tolkien described her as having an Amazon's disposition. So, firstly, that passage from Unfinished Tales just states that she fought Faramore. It doesn't say that she was fighting using a sword and shield. Galadriel is a strong magic user, so it would make more sense that she would use her magic. Also, that happened in the first age, not the second. In the second age, she was married and traveling with her husband. And this is also from Unfinished Tales, which is something Amazon doesn't actually have the rights to. So should we be really using it as a source? Or more importantly, are they using it as a source? I mean, they got Simon Tolkien there probably approving every change, so I don't really think it matters. Also, about Tolkien's letter. He does say Amazon's disposition, but let's look at the full quote. In her youth, she was very willful and of an Amazon disposition, and bound her hair as a crown when taking part in athletic feats. And this is referring to her life early on in the annals of Aman, during the first age. This is referring to her athleticism when she was young, not her combat prowess. And even still, it doesn't automatically translate to she was an excellent warrior with swords and was battle hardened. It seems people, and possibly the showrunners, are taking these two little things and just stretching it as far as they can, and just reaching. They're like, oh, it says here she fought someone, and also she was pretty athletic. So let's make her a commander of an army in an age where she was actually doing something completely different. I'm not saying she didn't participate in battles, because she did, but she was no commander. And her strengths are more in magic, lore, wisdom, not swords. What's funny is that Galadriel was one of the first people to see through Sauron's deception when he was Anatar, but it was actually Elrond and Gil-galad who led the forces against him, and were more so the driving force against Sauron. But here, it seems like they're switching to make Galadriel do that instead. That's about all I really wanted to add, and even though I think this trailer looks much better than the last 3 we've gotten, I'm still personally not that excited for it, and it doesn't change my opinion. I guess I should add this here, even though I don't really need to. If you're looking forward to the show, that's great. If you're okay with the changes, that's fine too. I'm not here to say that you're wrong for liking the changes, I'm here just telling you why I personally don't. And I'm explaining that I, as a fan, am not excited for this adaptation of something I enjoy. But if you're a fan of the source material, and you are looking forward to this show, then good on you. I'm not here to try to hinder your enjoyment, I'm just explaining why I'm not personally excited for it. Now obviously I have my concerns concerns, but I still plan on watching at least the first episode, maybe the second, just to see how it is and if I actually want to continue watching it. If I don't end up enjoying it, I'm just not going to watch it. So I'll give it a shot and give it a chance to win me over. But if I don't end up enjoying it, then I'm just going to move on. So basically it's the same approach I take to every show I watch. But yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Next time I talk about Rings of Power, it's more likely going to be about the premiere, or unless something shocking and drastic happens between now and then. So that's going to do it for the video. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment, let me know. What do you think about Rings of Power? You looking forward to it? You excited? Are you worried? Leave a comment, let me know. I'm going to give a nice big shout out to the channel members. You guys are better than Second Breakfast, and I mean that. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, click the join button down below, check out the perks. If they interest you, consider joining. Or not, it don't matter.
None of this matters.
Honestly, I don't like anything about you. I don't like your face. I don't like the way you dress. I don't like the way you talk. I don't like anything about you. And even if you cured cancer, I still don't even think I would like you, because something about you I just don't like. So fuck you. No funny, no joking. I honestly wish the worst for you.